Dear friend I haven't met yet, I made myself go to control Freak Rehab. That is the first thing you need to do. Well, of course, figuring out and admitting to yourself that you do in fact have a problem is the first step. But I think we often tend to prove to ourselves that that is sort of where the work ends, because our actions rarely change. And if we cannot rely on ourselves to do what is necessary to change, we stay with what makes us feel safe, which is our fears, our suffering, and our drama. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. Alright, let's get into the nitty-gritty. This is a segment on my channel where I talk to you about stuff that I have recently thought a lot about or figured out or just want to talk about while knitting. And this is my current project. If you can you see it? Is it, you like it? Is it good? This is going to be a cute little blouse with a haphazard censorship bar. Haphazard because you can still very much see through it, but it's darker and it covers me up a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to be knitting this. I'm going to continue my little project while I talk to you about control. So we have to remind ourselves that that is where most addicts fail, in not showing up for themselves when they do notice that they do have a problem. And control is an addiction, a pattern of maladaptive behavior that seeks relief in unhealthy coping mechanisms. And the addict, me, or the addict, you! Because I don't think you would continue watching this video if this didn't apply to you in some sort of way, now would you? I mean, you can hate watch, and in the end that does help me too, but you know. You may not be a control freak in that case, but I hope you value your time more than this. So, what was I saying? Yes, the addict me, or the addict you, is convinced that there is no other way to go about this situation than with those maladaptive coping mechanisms. And trust me, I would know. I figured out I had a control problem a good long while before I started my own rehab. And with starting my own rehab, starting my own rehab, I mean that moment of presence, of awareness, that instant in time where you take a step back and you suddenly see a path fork in front of you. I'm not necessarily talking literal visions, but who knows, maybe you did have literal visions like that. For me, this is more a metaphorical thing, where one of them, you can tell, like, the cobblestones are all worn from years of people scuffing them shiny, and you can maybe even make out trees that you've seen as you keep going in circles on the same problem, whereas the other one is coated in moss, unimprinted. And there's the rub. I will forever be Hamlet. I played Hamlet once on my university's English drama group stage, and I will never not be Hamlet, but therein lies a different way in going about that situation. A break in your pattern. A moment to pause, to get some distance and support. My therapist told me from the get-go, like right when we started out with our therapy, during our time, you learn the skills so that you do not need me anymore, which was especially important for my problems. But in general, the aim of therapy is to not need a therapist, to be able to manage the problems that you came to therapy with without needing a therapist to be there. You become your own therapist, and I am very happy to say that I am at a time and place where I can really rely on myself. And whenever I tap into this higher self, I imagine space folding and time collapsing, and you just become one with this higher version of you that already knows, that has always known, the part of you that already feels safe doing what feels scary, unbearable, or even impossible to the you right now. You know, everything you could ever ask has already been answered for you, and I really do believe that these answers are within us. I was reflecting on my relationship to control because I noticed these recurring situations. It's interesting. Growing up, I've noticed there's always these lessons that come back for me to have these opportunities to act differently, and I noticed a new recurring situation, which was the way I react when I'm misunderstood. And don't get me wrong, I know that being misunderstood is a horribly painful experience to have from strangers and close ones alike. Like, of course, the people that are close to you and that are especially supposed to know you, a lot of the time it hurts much more there. Even with strangers, I would have these really big reactions within myself that seemed like overreactions because I wasn't even really present in that moment. I was recounting all these other experiences that I've had in my life where I was misunderstood and I had no idea how to build that bridge between the me I know myself to be and the me that the other person is perceiving myself as. And that was really scary. I would notice that in those situations, for example, I would either become really defensive, like literally trying to defend myself from the attack on my own self-image, which I understand that standing up for oneself is really important, and I know that I can trust myself to do that if need be. However, the question came up for me, when is it standing up for myself, and when is it a frantic effort on my side to try and convince another person of my goodness? So once I noticed that what I was trying to do, for example, let's say I was being misunderstood in a work situation and I would feel this anxiety about it. I would notice, oh, this doesn't match up. This is not who I know myself to be. And I want to make sure that the other person knows that I'm good. So I guess in a work situation, I'm much less likely to be defensive. The defensive part really only comes out in familial or love relationships. But in a work relationship, I would really try to explain myself, like make sure every instance is analyzed and brought to the attention through my point of view so that the other person really knows what was going on, instead of just letting both realities exist, you know? Like, who am I to say which reality is the real one? I know what is real for me and who I am, but growing up has also taught me that for the other person, their reality is just as real. This unhealthy coping mechanism that I've developed, which is explaining myself or becoming defensive, that is the quick fix, right? That is scrambling, that is coming out of the space of fear and smallness instead of out of a certain centeredness. So I figured out that my remedy for these kind of situations that I would find myself in so often these days was to, can you guess? Can I drum roll? On the microphone, does it work? Hold on, wait, I have drumsticks. Sit with it. What? I bet you've never heard that before. But yes, to sit with that discomfort, sit with the discomfort of that nuance. And what I, or anybody that, you know, I'm sure you've heard many, many therapists, people, loved ones on even the internet like me tell you, oh, just sit with your problems, you know, sit with those feelings. And then you're thinking, okay, but what does that mean? Like, do I need to sit down, chant some ohms, and sit on a meditation pillow? And you can. That does work for some people. But what sitting with your feelings really means, for me, it means to really try and stay in that position of the observer, to sit there, hear everything that's going on in here, try to remind myself of the objective truth, which, for example, in the case of the work problem, is I did something. This something did not sit right with my boss. My boss told me, do not do this again. And I said, okay. And that is what objectively happened. Everything else is judgments from me and from, for example, my boss about the situation. And so the goal is to hold the reality of things, hold space for everything that you can hear. Maybe your brain is really loud, or maybe it's even very quiet. If it's already quiet, maybe you're very good at the observant thing, and then good job. You listen to everything else that's going on, and you just listen. You hear this one thought come in, and it leaves, and it passes. You hear this new thought come in, and it passes. And maybe you even hear the same thought pounding at the door of your mind, trying to get in and infiltrate your brain. And the goal is to sit there and endure it and listen without judgment. And when you can do that, you are in the seat of the observer and you have so much more power over the situation. You can also, if you have the bodily awareness, try and pinpoint physical sensations. Maybe your fingers get really cold when you're scared because your body is trying to preserve energy by centering everything. Or maybe you're hunched over because you're worried about attacks coming in, so you're kind of shielding yourself. The goal is just to see what's going on. And whenever new thoughts come in about, I don't understand how this works, or this is so annoying, I can't believe I'm listening to this stupid YouTube lady, that is fine. Keep thinking it, but keep getting back to observing. This is an example of what it means to sit with one's feelings, and it is really an exposure therapy for me. I noticed these last few weeks that I've really put myself in situations where I would let people misunderstand me, and I would do this so that I would be confronted with my fear of not getting to explain myself or not being able to make sure that the other person knows that I'm a good boy. And I would just learn to tolerate it. And a lot of this anxiety-based stuff is tolerance. You need to build up the tolerance. Of course, if you are in an actually like life-threatening situation objectively, get out. But in a lot of cases for me, nothing's going to happen and I'm still freaking out about it. When you're sitting there with all those thoughts that are happening, and they might genuinely be very scary, is there any way that you can find compassion? Or better yet, because it's sort of the first step before compassion can happen for a lot of people, can you find curiosity? Who is it that is scared here? Is it the adult you or the teenage you that is here right now? Or is it a younger version of you? Can you remember the situation you were in that reminds you of this? I am learning that my strength can also lie in letting myself be misunderstood. And it is already a lot easier than it was a month ago. And I'm sure that it will only get easier now that I am on track for my Control Freak Rehab recovery. And I have a couple more questions, journaling prompts, reflections for you to help you be a little more equipped for your long journey ahead. What helps you notice that you've slipped into old patterns? How do you step back onto those new pathways? The path that you have noticed is more aligned with who you really are. And what is your relationship with control? We can all help each other out in Control Freak Rehab. Maybe we should all do a round of names. Hi, I'm Dorian, and I signed myself into Control Freak Rehab. Everybody say hi, Dorian. All right, thank you. If you want to read this, as in with your eyes and text, why did I feel the need to explain what reading means? If you would like to read what I was talking about, this video is based on this Substack post. It's good, I promise. Look at this beauty. I cast off the edges here. This is going to be the back piece. I'm going to sew this little bit together. Other than that, look at that gorgeous, gorgeous pattern. Ugh, I love it. If any of you are working on a knitting project, let me know. Thank you for keeping me company, and I'll see you soon.